This may be the best episode of the Book of Boba Fett so far. Actually, no, it definitely is. This is definitely the best episode of this series so far. We have 2 episodes left. This is episode 5. And does that have anything to do with the fact that Boba Fett wasn't even in the episode? No, because I like Boba Fett. I think he's a cool character. But I think it has more to do with the fact that it barely has anything to do with the actual Book of Boba Fett series, and is actually more so kind of like the Mandalorian Season 2.5. Which is awesome, because if we were actually on schedule and if the Book of Boba Fett wasn't a thing, then we would have gotten the Mandalorian Season 3 in December of 2021, and we would be watching that right now instead. But we've got this. So we've got to wait even longer for the Mandalorian Season 3, but this can tide us over, and this was great. Of course, it was set up and teased at the end of episode 4, with, of course, the theme song of Din Djarin's The Mandalorian, and now this whole episode is about his character. Which is just something I was not at all expecting, but I love so much that they did this, because, of course, they were setting it up that, Boba Fett is going to hire Mando, and they're going to work together to fight the Pikes and all that stuff. So I thought that that'd be what happens here, and they just, call Mando and he'd show up, and then they continue the actual storyline of the series. But no, we get a full-on Mandalorian story in this episode, and it kind of is like a prologue and like a setup for the Mandalorian Season 3, which I absolutely love. But guys, before we get too much further into this, of course, quick spoiler warning, if you've not yet seen the episode, The Book of Boba Fett, Episode 5 on Disney+, so let's go ahead and jump into this thing. So this episode is called Return of the Mandalorian, very fitting for this episode, because it is the return of the Mandalorian, not only the character, but also just the storylines of the character as well. Because when we start off this episode, Din Djarin, aka the Mandalorian, is entering this, alien meat room, and he is brutal here. He murders a bunch of people with the Darksaber, and he's back to bounty hunting. He's, very, very emotionless in this scene, and you can see the effect that this has kind of had on him, that now that he doesn't have Grogu anymore, he doesn't have that thing that's holding him back, and it's like a great loss. Even though it's not like Grogu died or anything, he's still missing that part of his life, and he misses his Grogu. So this was great. This was an absolutely beautiful scene. Again, you could just see the rage from Mando, but it was also a little confusing seeing the violence here from the Mandalorian. Yet in the rest of this series, Boba Fett, who literally spent his whole life as a bounty hunter and is now the Daimyo of Mos Espley, has done nothing. Boba Fett should be a dark character, but he's been super lighthearted and Disney-fied so far in this series. But then to see the Mandalorian go dark like this, it was really disappointing, but at the same time so cool at the same time to see Mando take on this new light. So after this, he actually goes to this ring-shaped planet, I'm not sure what it's called, and he gets his bounty, and he actually meets up with the Armorer and Paz Vizsla. So this was really cool to see their return, kind of catch up with them, get a little more backstory here. Mando is also actually injured here, so of course the Armorer helps him out there. And the Armorer gives a little bit of a backstory on the Darksaber, where we even get some flashback to the destruction of Mandalore, where we get some, there was some droids there that look very, very similar to K2SO from Rogue One, so that's really cool that we got the same design of droids there as well. But then Mando actually rejoins this kind of Mandalorian group, and the Armorer says that Beskar should not be weapons, so she takes his Beskar spear that was given to him by Ahsoka in Season 2, and she says she's going to forge it into some armor or something. But it's after this when Mando starts talking about Grogu, aka Baby Yoda, and he says, I miss Grogu, I want to see him, and he actually asked Armor to forge something for Grogu. And we never find out what this is that he forged, or she forged for Grogu, but we see that it's something that's going to be housed in this little pouch. And at first, I was super confused, I was like, what is that supposed to be? Like a pouch of marbles or something like that? And honestly, I actually think it is, but not actual marbles. Beskar balls is what I'm going to call it, because, of course, that was a big thing with Baby Yoda, is he was always playing with the little ball in Mando's ship, the Razor Crest. So I feel like that'd be pretty cool if like Mando goes to visit Grogu during his training with Luke Skywalker and gives him the gift of these little balls to play with. I think that'd be really cute for him to do. But then mixed in here with all this, we also get a little action where we have Mando doing some training, but he's unfocused. He has trouble wielding the Darksaber. So Paz Vizsla actually challenges him to a duel for the Darksaber, especially considering that it was his ancestor that first forged the Darksaber in the first place. Of course, Mando wins, but it was definitely a close one. It was cool to see this battle between the two of them. And this is where we get a really interesting turning point, though, because after this battle, the armorer goes back to the original creed with, like, this is the way and all that stuff, and asks both of them, have you ever removed your helmet? Has anyone else removed your helmet? Of course, Paz Vizsla says, no, never. But Mando, he tells the truth and says, yes, I have removed my helmet. And she's like, oh, you are a disgrace. You are a Mandalorian no more and all this stuff. And he's like, how can I atone for my mistakes? Well, she says, you have to go to the mines beneath Mandalore, which Mandalore was destroyed, so that's kind of going to be hard to do. But he goes out on a mission to get to Mandalore, but first he's got to go get some supplies, like, obviously, an actual ship, because the Razor Crest was destroyed. So he hops on basically this alien airplane, which I thought was pretty cool, especially how they had like the security where like he's got to put all his weapons in the little suitcase because he can't have those on the plane. I thought that was really cool to see. And he goes to Tatooine where he meets up with Amy Sedaris' character of Peli Motto, who of course appeared a couple times in both The Mandalorian Season 1 and Season 2, and also actually had a background cameo a couple episodes back in the Book of Boba Fett Episode 3. I did a separate video breaking down that. So it was great seeing her return as well. She's a really funny character. I really like her. So she offers him a new ship, an N1 Starfighter, which looked not in the greatest condition at first, but then we get a cool montage of them repairing the ship, and Mando takes it for a test flight where he is then stopped by some Imperial officers, one of them being an Imperial officer that had a dealing with him back in The Mandalorian Season 2, and he actually recognizes him, and of course Mando, with a new installed tool in the ship, is able to escape, but still there's a little bit of setup there. I'm assuming those characters are going to return in Mando Season 3. But at the end of this, of course, we get the actual big setup for Book of Boba Fett Episode 6 and 7, where Fennec Shand shows up and hires him, and he actually says, like, you know, I'll do it for free, because, like, you're a friend, even though you tried to kill me and all this stuff. So they team up, and then he says, but first, you gotta pay a visit to a little friend. And of course, that little friend is most likely little baby Yoda, aka Grogu. And so I think this means we are getting some baby Yoda next week, and I am so excited. At the same time, it does feel a little early to see him return, but then again, it's baby Yoda. I'll take as much as I can get. I think this is going to be amazing. I'm so excited for this, and I'm just excited for everything that was set up here in The Mandalorian Season 3, because like I said, this really is basically The Mandalorian Season 2.5 that is kind of a prologue for Season 3, and we actually even have Bryce Dallas Howard directing this episode, who of course directed multiple episodes of The Mandalorian, so it was a great episode. This definitely is the best episode of the Book of Boba Fett so far. 2 episodes left, so it is going to be interesting how we're going to be focusing more on the Mando stuff next episode as well. But then again, I prefer that to the Boba Fett stuff, so I'm not complaining too much. But we'll see how things go. But for now, guys, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. What did you think about the Book of Boba Fett Episode 5, The Return of the Mandalorian? I want to keep saying the Mandalorian episode, whatever, just because, you know, it felt like an episode of the Mandalorian. But it was so good. So good. But anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep it up to date on everything that goes on in the Star Wars life.